Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com, vibes in the top in the kitchen. Watch nice one. Too bad I can't use some soca and some reggae and zouk and thing in the background for you all, you know. Nah, police will lock me up. Today's recipe, watch now, is all kind of lovely flavors. But here's the thing, we're doing a traditional Callalloo as it's done in the southern Caribbean. So Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Antigua, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, watch, all these islands do a version of this Callaloo, which is basically a spinach soup. But we're not doing it the traditional way. We're going to vary a little bit. We're going to do it vegetarian as well as gluten-free. So no crab, no salted meat, nothing like that. Vegetarian. Watch this one. It is packed with flavors. Let's get I've got a nice big pot, and I mean to say you could use a soup pot, nice and heavy, on a medium flame, and I'm going to go in with about a tablespoon of olive oil. Since the pot is already warm, I'm going to turn my heat down to low, and I'm going to go in with the chopped onion. And I have here about 5 cloves, small cloves of garlic that I just smashed with the knife. All that's going to break down in that slow cooking process that we've got to implement. And this is where we're building flavor, so I'm going to go in with some black pepper. And I've got here some fresh thyme, and you really want to pick the leaves off the stem, because later on you don't want to have to be dealing with this sort of woody stem. And I have about 4 of them. I'm just going to work in there. And some scallions, that's 3 small scallions or spring onions. Your heat on low, it is imperative that your heat be on low, and let that sort of soften up and waken up for about 2 minutes. If you recall, a few videos ago, I did what's called sofrito, which is not a traditional part of making callaloo. Let me stress that. However, I'm going to go in with a heaping tablespoon of that sofrito. If you have Caribbean green seasoning, you can use about half of a teaspoon just for that herbal element. If you're looking for that sofrito recipe and it has garlic and all these peppers and everything in there, check out the main page of the cooking channel here at Caribbean Pot. Give that a quick stir. And again, low heat for about a minute. Next up, we're going to go in with some diced, and I'm using butternut squash because I don't have access to that beautiful Caribbean style pumpkin that we get down there. My heat is still on low, and I've got here some chopped up okra, or okra as we say in the Caribbean, and we just want to give that a good mix and let that saute on the bottom here. I also went in with 2 of these, what we call bird pepper or bird's eye chili, into the pot. You can, any sort of heat element you want, you can put it in there, or it's totally up to you. You can leave that out, but you want that little kick in there. And I put them in whole because I'm going to get a ton of flavor from them without breaking them. I'm going to go in with 1 diced sweet potato. Now it's time to add the key ingredient to any Trinbagonian or Southern Caribbean callaloo, which is the spinach. But traditionally we use taro leaves, or what we call dasheen bush leaf, the baby leaves. I cannot get that in North America, and when I do get it, the quality is rather crap. So what I'm going in with is just everyday baby spinach, just the normal variety you would get in North America and Europe, everywhere else. Easily accessible. And I have, you're going to notice I have the stems and everything because this is baby spinach. It is very tender and it will cook down perfectly. If you're using the cheap stuff that looks, oh man, it looks like plastic almost. That's how overgrown that spinach is. Do not use the stems. It will be too fibrous for you. Couple more ingredients to go in here. And remember, we said we're doing this vegetarian, so there is no crab, there is no salted pigtail or salted beef or anything like that. We're going to go in with some sea salt, and it may seem like a lot, but trust me, that sea salt is going to do some wonders in there. And some homemade coconut milk. You're going to need liquid to bring all of this together, and I'm using coconut milk and a bit of water. If you want, you can go in with vegetable stock. And making that homemade coconut milk is very simple. if you go to my food FAQ channel, you will see it in there. Bring that up to a boil now. So turn the heat up and bring it up to a boil. As it comes up to a boil, I just want to remind you, it needs about 3 to 4 cups of liquid to bring everything together. The other thing is, I like going in with a little bit of lemon juice, because you tend to find that sometimes you eat callaloo or okra or spinach and the back of your throat is a little bit itchy. Go in with that lemon juice. That's going to make a huge difference in everything. Oh boy, look what we have here. Mr. Seed Frontish. Bring that up to a boil and then we're going to gently simmer. Start it to come up to a boil now, and you will notice one thing. Once you start adding that spinach to there, it will seem like a lot, but as it cooks down, it will be enough to fit in your pot. So don't fret about that. Now all we need to do is reduce this to a simmer now, and let that go for about an hour to an hour and a half until everything is nice and tender. Now you're probably saying an hour and a half, that's a long time, Chris. Watch me. Mom's had a saying, hurry dogs, eat raw meat. We don't want nothing raw here. We want everything to combine. So I'm just gonna turn my heat down, put my lid on. About an hour and 15 minutes, we'll check it at that point. It's been simmering now for about an hour and 15 minutes. And every so often I stir it because you don't want it sticking to the bottom. And all that lovely Callalloo goodness is at the bottom, you know, nice and thick. But here is where we've got to really break it all down into like a nice, smooth, silky consistency. Get all that sweet potato. And I must mention to you guys one thing. Because we added that sweet potato in there, it may take on a sort of a sweetish flavor. So you may want to counter that with a little bit more salt. Taste it for salt at this point. And if you want, you can go in with a little bit more hot peppers or pepper sauce or whatever. Two options here, and this is the final sort of breakdown of things. I have here the old school, what we call swizzle stick, and this is what I am going to be using today to break this down. The second option is one of these electric little thing that goes in there and you pulse it. If you are using an electric one, or if you are putting this into your food processor or blender to smoothen it, to make it smooth, I do apologize, that's the dishwasher going. This is a functional family kitchen. Pulse it, please hit it pulse. Do not go with a steady work on this, because all you're gonna get is a frothy consistency that will change the flavor and texture of this callaloo. So in with my swizzle stick, and I'm going to turn it off at this point because I don't want that heat coming back at me. And all you got to do with a sort of a rolling motion, and we're just going to go in and swizzle this callaloo, as we say down in the Southern Caribbean, just to break everything down so it goes nice and smooth. And I've been working this now. I'm going to say it takes a little bit of elbow grease with this old school swizzle stick. But look at that nice silky, and it still has a little bit of texture to it. Remember to taste it for salt. I have worked it for about 2 or 3 minutes here. But again, if you want, you can use a food processor, one of those stick blenders, or a typical blender. Just allow it to cool down a bit if you're going to be transferring it into a food processor or something. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. I do hope you guys give this vegetarian, gluten-free Callaloo a try. It is very tasty. You can use it as a soup, or I like to pair it up with my rice and my stewed chicken, and ooh, I'm gonna have some fun with this.